Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to my closing sessions report for fall 2023. Special thanks to those of you who are here with us in Little Theater, and welcome to everybody else watching the live stream. Thanks, as always, to Evelyn Lomark, Interim Executive Director of Administrative Support Services, Facilities Rentals, and the Laguardia Performing Arts Center, and to Carmen Griffin, here in the front row, Theater Operations Manager and Technical Director of the Laguardia Performing Arts Center. Big thanks. Yeah, oh, that's it. Applause for the LPAC staff led by Stephanie Sertich, quite appropriately. Big thanks to Gina Taraskevich, my executive producer, right here. Thanks also, that's right, to American Sign Language interpreters Mary Jo Hennessy and Susan Weinstein, who are going to sign for us today. This semester, we have 28 LaGuardia students who are deaf or hard of hearing. Mary Jo, Susan, and their colleagues make sure these students make these students LaGuardia educations possible. Now, I'm going to cover several administrative matters, kind of serious stuff, at first, and then I'll present, as I did last year at this time, my highly subjective version of 2023, the LaGuardia Year in Review. And that's where we do the calendar trick and go through great dates in 2023. First, the budget. To our amazing LaGuardia staff, I know some of you feel that personnel shortages in your department are making it hard for you to do your jobs, that you've had to pick up additional work that used to be done by someone else who resigned or retired and hasn't been replaced, and that at times you're worried that you and your colleagues who are left are not able to provide the same level of service to our students as you did before. I am quite aware of your frustrations, and I really regret that you have to endure them. In many parts of the college, it's true, we are stretched thin, and I'm afraid I don't have a solution right now, today, to give you relief. For the moment, we just don't have the money. LaGuardia, like all of the CUNY colleges these days, has a structural deficit. Now, our enrollment increased this fall for the first time in 9 years, and that is definitely good news. More students means more tuition revenue, more FTEs, which equals, in theory, more government funding. Yes, our revenue is increasing, fortunately, but it's still not enough to cover our expenses. Last month, the CUNY Central Office estimated that when this fiscal year ends on June 30th, our deficit will be $5.25 million. Now, that's down significantly compared to last year, but it's still a serious problem. I hope you understand the need to manage our expenses carefully and reduce them as much as we can. Clearly, we need to lower our deficit, not increase it. I see Anthony Garofalo's over there watching me carefully. Now, unfortunately, things got worse last week when the University Budget Office factored in the budget cuts that Mayor Adams has announced for city agencies, including LaGuardia community colleges. When you see in the papers that there's a round of city cuts, they come to us, right, Anthony, to the community colleges. These are called PEGs, programs to eliminate the gap. The first two PEGs of fiscal year 24 were each at 5%. And they've reduced our city funding this year by over $8 million. So the cuts have therefore driven up our deficit, which I said was 5.25. Well, now it's over $13 million if you project ahead to June 30th. We will use, I'm going to say that's a scary number. It's a scary number. But fortunately, Senior Vice President Shahir Irfan and Budget Director Anthony Garofalo have been prudent with LaGuardia's allocation of federal stimulus money. Basically, they've saved a lot of it for a rainy day. Well, it's raining. We're going to use our unspent federal stimulus funds to close our budget gap that I just described on June 30th. So LaGuardia should be okay. I say should because the mayor has threatened a third PEG for April in the new year. Let's hope he doesn't act on that threat. Now, I'm not going to name names, but there are 5 CUNY colleges that have structural deficits and no stimulus money left. Unless they win Powerball, those sister schools of ours have no way to close their budget gaps. those 5 CUNY colleges are on a watch list. They must manage their expenses under a set of controls imposed by the central office, which, given their precarious financial conditions, is understandable, but it is not fun. Trust me, we don't want to be on that list. Remember that in CUNY, financial exigency, which most people call bankruptcy, can be declared for the system or for one or more of its individual colleges. Retrenchment plans, which most people call layoffs, can be required for individual colleges under financial exigency. Indeed, these are highly customized at the college level for the colleges that require them. Now, I have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen to those 5 colleges. I really don't. But I do know we don't want to be on that list. All this is to say that even with the mayor's proposed cuts, LaGuardia should be okay, as long as we continue to increase enrollment and revenue, reduce our expenses, and eliminate our deficit. Thanks to everyone's hard work, your commitment to LaGuardia and our students, and to the experience and expertise, and I can't sort of emphasize this enough, the talent of our business office, who manage our colleges, our finances so carefully, we're definitely moving in the right direction. Next, human resources. Let me take a moment to talk about HR. As many of you know, the leadership of the LaGuardia chapter of the PSC, on behalf of a number of faculty and staff, has expressed concerns about our human resources department. The chapter conducted a survey back in the spring and more recently gathered signatures on a petition that they delivered to me a few weeks ago. And if you want to learn more about their concerns, there's an article about them in the most recent issue of the Clarion. Now, I'm fully aware of the chapter's concerns, and as always, I appreciate their input and suggestions. The current executive director of human resources, Marta Clark, has always been in an interim role. So Senior Vice President Shahir Irfan, to whom she reports, was planning to run a search at the conclusion of her interim appointment. That time has arrived, so he's running a search now. In fact, the position was posted just last week. And there was an item about it. I think we had something about it last week in the weekly update. We obviously want a competitive search and a strong pool of candidates, including Ms. Clark. So please take a look at the posting. It's on the website. And share it with people you know that might be interested in applying for the position. And if you have questions or suggestions regarding the search, please reach out to Shahir. Thank you. Gender inclusivity training. I'm pleased to announce new training for students, faculty, and staff developed under the auspices of Lavender LaGuardia. The LGBTQIA+ gender identity, inclusivity, and pronoun training will address gender identity inclusivity in accordance with the laws of New York State and New York City. The training will cover an explanation of these laws and the risks and dangers our students face when these laws are violated. And it will focus on pronouns and their use, gender markers and gender identity, as well as misgendering and dead naming. This is a more specific training than the general Safe Zone training, which many of us have already taken. Training videos and other materials will highlight LaGuardia-specific resources as well as external resources. To better serve the diversity of our students, the training will center the experience of our Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, Asian, Asian American, and Pacific Islander students and other students of color. Videos will include captions for accessibility. I want to extend special thanks to Professors Chelsea Del Rio and Strauder Rausch, who developed this training, which we're going to begin to roll out in the new year. Yeah, thank you. Thank you to Chelsea and Sarah. Our new 5-year, last piece of this part of the presentation is a bit on our upcoming strategic plan. And we have to do, as I think I mentioned in the fall report, a new 5-year strategic plan. So, after acknowledging how busy you all are, let me invite you to get involved in yet another LaGuardia volunteer activity, the drafting of our next 5-year strategic plan. Yes, it is that time again. With Middle States behind us and the ink of the Chancellor's strategic roadmap, CUNY, lifting New York, barely dry, we need to come together in the spring semester and produce our own new roadmap, which will chart LaGuardia's course from July 2024 through June 2029. Nava Lehrer, our Dean of Institutional Effectiveness, and her team have started to gather sort of baseline data. We recently sent a survey to students to get input on their concerns, to which, of course, our new plan must respond. We have recommendations from Middle States, important findings from this year's coach survey, and more. In January and February, we will continue to collect background data and information and prepare for college-wide input into the planning process, which will commence in March with the start of the spring semester. I know it's not easy with everything we have going on, but I need you to dream big and please get involved. You've heard me say this before. LaGuardia is a good community college, but we should be better. Our graduation rate of 29% is behind Kingsborough and Gutman and below the national average. We're good, but we're not great. I want LaGuardia to be great. First, I want LaGuardia to be the best community college in CUNY. Why not? Then, why not become the best community college in New York State? I actually know the competition, and I know we can do that. And in the end, I want LaGuardia to be up there with the best community colleges in this country. And this is not about institutional ego or bragging rights. It's because in order to go from good to great, we will need to do new things, try new approaches, work in new ways, in order to deliver the full promise of LaGuardia to a much larger percentage of our students, to dramatically move the needle on student success. To become a great community college, we will need to increase our graduation rate. We will need to eliminate our performance gaps for Black students. Do you know that our graduation rate for Black male students is only 16%? That's unacceptable. We will need to improve our outcome for part-time students. Our 6-year completion rate for part-time students is only 20%, and part-time students make up about half of all of our degree-seeking students. That's unacceptable. And remember, we're only as successful as our least successful students. We're going to need to increase job and career readiness for all of our graduates in ACE programs and in degree programs. Since economic mobility is the core purpose of this institution, career success must be central to our mission. Our new strategic plan will chart our course to improve student outcomes in these and other areas. And as we take up the work of the plan and bring its goals to fruition, we will make LaGuardia one of the top community colleges in the country. And that's the list we want to be on. Okay, Gina's going to help me out. It's time for the 2023 highlight reel. Now, there were a lot of big days in LaGuardia in 2023, so we'll have a look. January 1st, everyone starts the new year with the LaGuardia and Wagner Archives calendar. The 2023 edition was called Rights, Reform, Resistance, Women in Politics and Social Movements in New York, Past and Present. This beautiful wall calendar, in English and Spanish, features a comprehensive rundown of milestones of women's movements in New York City from 1909 through 2022. And it closes with a special section celebrating the first ever female majority of the New York City Council, led by Speaker Adrienne Adams, of course, of Queens. On February 8th, we announced a $500,000 grant for mental health literacy and crisis intervention, awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. This grant will support the expansion of safety net programs for students with mental health needs. Congratulations to Regina Varon-Mignano, Frank Laterra Bellino, and their colleagues for securing this important funding for the Wellness Center. On February 10th, LaGuardia welcomed friends from the Robin Hood Foundation to launch Credits for Success, a new office led by Marcia Oropezzo that awards academic credit for learning that takes place outside of a traditional classroom. Think military service, work, classes taken in prison, workforce training in an ACE program, and so on. In partnership with faculty partners, Marcia and her colleagues can award credit for prior learning and help people who started college but never finished to get back on track. This can be especially meaningful to older working adults who would like to get their college degrees. On March 7th was the first day of the spring semester, you may recall. We welcomed more than 700 new students to campus, along with more than 1,000 transfer students. And in case you're wondering, in spring 23, about 60% of our classes were fully in person, 20% were online, and the remaining 13% or so were hybrid. Just 3 days later, on March 10th, we learned that 7 LaGuardia students were named as semi-finalists for the Jack Kent Cook Clark Undergraduate Transfer Scholarship, which provides up to $55,000 per student per year to help them complete their baccalaureate degrees. So 7 was a huge success for LaGuardia. Now, I should note that these students come from a variety of programs. You can see their pictures, but not their majors. I'll tell you what they are. Accounting, applied mathematics, biology, business administration, electrical engineering, journalism, and paralegal studies. Congratulations and warm thank yous to their dedicated professors and advisors. March 20th, we welcome Ben Roden as our new Vice President of Enrollment Management. Now, 9 months into the job, Ben is definitely getting to know LaGuardia and reconnecting with CUNY. March 31st. March 31st was International Transgender Day of Visibility, so a fitting day for LaGuardia and the CUNY LGBTQI+ Council to co-host the 2nd annual CUNY LGBTQI+ Student Conference right here on campus. Hundreds of participants from across CUNY were joined by Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez, City Council Member Tiffany Caban, and student speakers for a day of workshops around the theme of community, advocacy, power, and healing. And we enjoyed an inspiring keynote address, folks who were there will remember, from trans advocate Cecilia Gentili. I want to send a shout out here to biology professor Ali Brashears, whose leadership of the CUNY LGBTQI+ Council has resulted in doubling its membership so that now, at last, all CUNY schools are members of the council. Thank you and congratulations to Ali for pulling that off. April 19th, we'll go to April. April 19th kicked off our 8-week season of special events on the 29th Street LaGuardia Community Greenway. Each of these fun, popular plaza days, organized by Chief of Staff Nayeli Valencia Turent, was based on a different theme. All of them attracted large, enthusiastic crowds from the college and the community, demonstrating to New York City DOT that if the city will just turn over 29th Street to us, we will turn it into a welcoming, vibrant, green community space. May 17th to 20th, we were treated to performances by our award-winning theater program Of Big Love, directed by lecturer J.R. Caldwell. 13 current and former students performed, and they were supported by 5 student crew members. It was a terrific show. I know Stephanie and I were here. All of you were here for it. On May 24th, we hosted the Baruch College president, David Wu, for a signing ceremony. This doesn't happen. This is the first time in anybody's memory at that event that the Baruch president was here on campus at LaGuardia. This was important. But David Wu is a good guy, and he came for a signing ceremony to launch the LaGuardia Baruch Business Academy. And this new academy will smooth transfer pathways for LaGuardia students going to Baruch. The partnership, led by Business and Technology Department Chair Mike Napolitano, will include includes peer and faculty mentoring opportunities, community building events, and early access to Baruch's Star Career Development Center. Academy students who complete their associate degrees in business administration at LaGuardia and meet other criteria are guaranteed admission to Baruch and to its Zicklin School of Business. And just a reminder, people sometimes forget this, but business administration is still our #1 major on graduation day. May 30th was a big day for a special group of LaGuardia computer science students. That's the day these 12 students completed their 9-month apprenticeship at MasterCard and were offered, all of them were offered full-time positions there. Here's hoping Associate Dean for Academic Affairs Dion Miller and ACE VP Sunil Gupta will create more apprenticeship programs like this one, organized in collaboration with the New York CEO Jobs Council. On June 1st, we hosted a Years of Service celebration for faculty and staff. We honored 225 colleagues over in the Main Stage Theater for service milestones that day, including Professor of Biology Joseph McPhee, who taught at LaGuardia for 50 years. Congratulations to everyone, and thank you again for your dedication to LaGuardia. Okay, June 4th. June 4th was Sunday, and it was Queen's Pride. LaGuardia students, staff, and faculty joined the LaGuardia LGBTQI+ Consortium, again led by Ali, to march in the always energizing Queen's Pride Parade in Jackson Heights. Dr. Alexis McLean's first day at LaGuardia was the next day, Monday, June 5th. Dr. McLean joined us as our new Vice President for Student Affairs, following more than 14 years of distinguished service at Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn. June 21st was graduation. This you remember. On the beautiful campus of Queens College in Flushing, Provost Billy Gasto-Cruzado and I were honored to award associate degrees to more than 2,000 members of LaGuardia's class of 2023. That very same sunny day, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced it was awarding LaGuardia a $4.5 million multi-year grant for the development of the Animal Science Discovery Program, a project led by Dr. Prithvi Radheshkiranan, professor of biology, that will provide exciting new opportunities for students in her Sustainable Urban Agriculture program. Now, during the pre-dawn hours of July 7th, LaGuardia's revamped and greatly improved website was migrated over to our new content management system. Much of this long and complex project, frankly, happened behind the scenes. But I have to tell you, it was a big deal and a lot of work over many months. Think about it. Just one example. Our communications and IT teams had to review over 1,000 web pages. VP of Communications and External Affairs, Manny Romero, led this project with colleagues in IT, who are now led by Jason Bryan. Phase 2 of the website overhaul is underway. It's going to add more features, including updated faculty profiles and revised departmental homepages. Speaking of Jason and our terrific IT team, I hope you appreciate how efficiently they increased our cybersecurity protection by implementing multi-factor authentication this summer. Remember FFA when we did that in the summer? And while they did that, they completed our transition to cloud-based Microsoft 365, including Outlook and all the other applications we use on Microsoft. On August 3rd and 4th, we hosted the Queens Public Library's Hip Hop 50th Anniversary Summit, also over here in the Main Stage Theater. The two-day event explored the origins of hip hop and its transformation into an enduring global genre. The summit was emceed by none other than hip hop legend and LaGuardia graduate Ralph McDaniel, the Queens Public Library's hip hop coordinator and founder of Video Music Box. At its meeting in early August, the Accreditation Council for Occupational Therapy Education voted to grant status of accreditation for 10 years to LaGuardia's Occupational Therapy Assistant Program, OTA. Big congratulations to Dr. Regina Lehman, director of the program, and the OTA faculty and staff on this achievement. Not only were all 115 standards met, but the highest level of accreditation was granted to LaGuardia's OTA program. The fall semester, 2023, kicked off on September 8th, correct, with more than 10,700 students signed up for classes, including 2,100 new students and 1,200 transfers. LaGuardia, by the way, continues to do very well as with students transferring to us from other schools, I think marking how popular we are as a community college in the CUNY system. Now, for the first time in 9 years, LaGuardia, I mentioned this earlier, had an increase in enrollment this fall. Notably, we had a significant return of international students with very strong year-over-year growth. Our modality mix for the fall moved just slightly. 61.6% of classes were held fully in person, 26% online, and 12.5% were hybrid. Congratulations to VP Ben Roden and everyone in the Division of Enrollment Management. Now we just have to keep up that terrific momentum. For the start of the fall semester, we tried something new, thanks to support from the LaGuardia Foundation. Concerned about the impact of bursar holds, which disproportionately impact black students at LaGuardia, VP Roden and Jay Golan, the executive director of the foundation, designed a program in which they used foundation funds to buy down bursar holds that had been blocking students for the upcoming semester. They modified our student account policies to clear the path for 839 students with outstanding balances to be able to register for the fall term who otherwise wouldn't have been able to do so. 514 students received an average amount of $763 each from the foundation to help them resolve their account balances to bring those holds down so they could register for their classes. This had never happened before. Speaking of the foundation, over the past 2 years, the LaGuardia Foundation has allocated more than $11 million to student aid. That's an average of $5.5 million each year, which is unprecedented for LaGuardia and well more than most community colleges. Since the average foundation grant to students is about $1,000, we're talking about approximately 11,000 awards from the foundation to students over 2 years. About a third of all LaGuardia degree-seeking students and 10% right now of our A students have received foundation awards. That's a very high percentage of all students. Somebody, please send a box of chocolates to Jay Golan and his team at the foundation. September 21st, the U.S. Department of Education announced awards for more than 24 HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution, community colleges across the country. Thanks to the terrific work of Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, Dr. Eric Hoffman, LaGuardia received a 5-year, $2.8 million grant for the development of Project Camino, fortifying a guided pathway for college career and success. The goal of Project Camino is to support 40,000 high-need LaGuardia students as they follow their educational pathways through LaGuardia and beyond. On the evening of September 28th, a week later, more than 200 President's Society alumni attended a joyful, really fun 10th anniversary celebration over at Boyce Technologies, just a few blocks from here. Thank you, Foundation Board Chair Charles Boyce, for hosting this terrific event. Now, over the last 10 years, more than 600 LaGuardia students have participated in the President's Society, this innovative partnership leadership program, which was created back in 2013 by the incredible Karen Dubinsky, who, sitting in the fourth row, still leads it today. Thank you, Karen. That's right. 10 years. 10 years. October 4th. October 4th marks the launch of LaGuardia's new Transfer Council. A lot of questions this semester about what's going on with transfer. Just go ask the many members of the council. Seriously, October 4th marked the launch of the Transfer Council with representation from faculty and staff across disciplines and programs. The Transfer Council is coordinating all transfer initiatives at the college. The group is completing an inventory of all college transfer-related events, activities, and planning efforts. They're conducting an assessment of transfer services, resources, data, and information sharing tools, and our professional development needs. Their assessment will lead to new transfer-focused events, as well as transfer resource guides for staff, faculty, and students. So stay tuned for all of that. Two important things happened during the week of October 11th to help us improve education and training opportunities for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated students. First, a grant from the Ichigo Foundation enabled us to launch the LaGuardia Correctional Education Partnership and hire Matt Wilson, LaGuardia class of 2019, and Jack Kent Cook Transfer Scholarship to run the program. But a few days later, the U.S. Department of Justice awarded a 3-year, $900,000 grant to provide education and training and wraparound services for residents of Queensboro Correctional Facility, right across 47th Avenue. Big shout out to Professor of Criminal Justice, Dr. John Chaney, who secured this grant and will lead the Accelerated College Transition, or the ACT program. And some of you in that applause is built-in recognition that John has been working on this for years, and that he finally got this grant is just fantastic. And we're coordinating, obviously, both of these programs, Matt's and John's, together. On Saturday, October 14th, nearly 200, who is that? Oh. What's the name of them? Rebel. Sorry. I'm supposed to know the name of the mascot. There was a contest and students did the naming of them. It was called Rebel. All right, there's Rebel. And what is that? That is October 14th. It was a somewhat almost rainy Saturday. Nearly 200 runners and walkers came out for the second annual LaGuardia Community 5K Run. Participants ran down to the Long Island City waterfront and back. I should say we ran down. I did it too. Waterfront and back. The rain held out for most of the activities, which included raffles, music, thank you, Carmen, music and exhibits by community organizations and local businesses. Nearly, this is important, $4,000 was raised from the 5K run to support LaGuardia Cares. And yes, it was a lot of fun, Rebel included. The top overall finishers, it's interesting, were both repeat winners from last year, from the first inaugural run. So congratulations again to Professor Robin Keitlinski from Social Sciences and a guy named Tomas Wozniak, who is a great runner from Brooklyn and has nothing to do with LaGuardia. We actually don't know this guy. He showed up twice, 2 years in a row, claims a prize and leaves, and we don't know anything about him, except he runs really fast. On that same day, October 14th, the English Language Center, TELC, started its last classes for the year. They run classes on more of a quarterly basis, so they run all year. Now, you already know that LaGuardia is the biggest provider of English for speakers of other languages, ESOL, in New York City. So you will not be surprised when I tell you that this year, TELC had 3,441 enrollments, which was an 11% increase over last year. But that's what it's like to be, that's what happens when you're the biggest provider of ESOL in New York City. It's phenomenal. Big congratulations to VP Sunil Gupta, John Hunt, Liz Ayunati, Heather Barikmo, and all their amazing colleagues at TELC. Also, yes, that's it. Absolutely. Also in October, VP for Student Affairs, Alexis McLean, launched a working group on student conduct and academic integrity. The group is co-chaired by Social Sciences Department Chair Bojana Blagojevic, that's good, and VP McLean. Members are examining current practices and developing new processes to address behavior that violates the college's community standards. It's a very important updating of all of this that they're doing. In the new year, the working group will roll out workshops and forums that focus on education, safety, and awareness. And all of this, of course, will be on the website, too. October 18th, 4 days later, more good news from the Grants Office. The Carol and Milton Petrie Foundation awarded us a grant of $210,000 to launch Laguardia English Express. This is the education and training program for asylum seekers that I described to you in the fall report that I provided back in September. Now, this is one of a record number of grants secured this year by Laura Bardovics and her amazing team in our Office of Grants and Sponsored Programs. Out of 26 CUNY colleges and graduate schools, LaGuardia is basically tied for 7th place. We're kind of stuck with, or tied with, Lehman and the Grad Center in the ranking by grant expenditures by the Research Foundation. There are no other community college in the community system anywhere near that level. When it comes to raising money for LaGuardia, Laura and her team never quit. On October 26th, the Chancellor hosted a festive celebration at the CUNY Graduate Center for the Black Race and Ethnic Studies Initiative known as BRESI. Dozens of grantees, including BRESI faculty from all across CUNY, were joined by college and CUNY leaders. 15 LaGuardia faculty have been awarded these BRESI grants, including, 2 in the picture there, Ryan Mann Hamilton and Sonia Alejandra Rodriguez, who are founded co-directors of La Casa de las Americas. Speaking of La Casa, in their push for inclusivity, La Casa organized its first Indigenous Peoples Day and broadened the scope of the celebration they do for Dia de los Muertos, which is, I think we have a picture somewhere, to showcase intricately crafted altars that were representing the cultural nuances of Brazil, Haiti, Guatemala, Ecuador, and El Salvador. Beautiful, beautiful displays. This multifaceted approach strengthens ties within the community and fosters a vibrant and inclusive environment for all. On November 1st, Civic Hall at Union Square opened its doors with a ribbon cutting ceremony we were very pleased to participate in. This cutting-edge, 85,000 square foot tech training facility, entrepreneurial hub, and event center was developed by LaGuardia partners, New York City EDC, and the FedCap Group, who have provided us with classroom space and other facilities there. Our ACE division is already running IT help desk support and cybersecurity classes at Civic Hall, expanding LaGuardia's reach into that outer borough of Manhattan. If anyone wants to teach a class at Civic Hall, just ask VP Sunil Gupta for the keys. He was over there earlier today. On November 6th, 19 inmates on Rikers Island celebrated earning college credits that they can apply toward a LaGuardia degree should they decide to enroll in the college when they're released. This innovation is the result of tireless advocacy by Dr. Corey Rowe. Yay. Associate Professor, Dr. Rowe's Associate Professor of Criminal Justice, as you know, and she's worked so hard for a number of years to ensure that her incarcerated students be awarded full academic credit for their coursework at Rikers. And thanks to LaGuardia's Office of Credit for Prior Learning, I mentioned Marcia Oropesa a little while ago, that was possible. As Dr. Rowe explained, this marked the first time that men in custody at Rikers' George R. Vierno Center had access to college courses for credit. On November 29th, just last Wednesday, there it is, students packed E500 upstairs to hear from a very special guest, Toshiyuki Mimaki, a survival of the U.S. atomic bombing of Hiroshima in August of 1945, which occurred when he was 3 years old. Mr. Mimaki was in New York with other atomic bomb survivors, known in Japanese as hibakusha, to attend a review of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons at the UN. His visit to LaGuardia was coordinated by Japanese language professor and college discoverer professor and counselor, Dr. Kyoko Toyama. Thank you, Kyoko. It was extraordinary. Privileged to meet him. Extraordinary. Now, the next day, on November 30th, the New York City Department of Transportation Commissioner Idanis Rodriguez and New York City Council member, our council member here, Julie Wan, met with our SGA leadership and Professor Joby Jacob to discuss the college's vision for closing 29th Street to traffic and turning it into a pedestrian plaza and greenway. Remember the 8 proof-of-concept plaza days we just recognized back in April? We got the commissioner to come last week and see this for himself. Always a big supporter of the college, Council Member Julie Wan allocated $2 million towards this project this year, towards the community greenway. So let me pause. I want to recognize here the good work by Claudia Chan, our Deputy Director of Government and External Affairs. She's not in the picture because she took it. Thank you, Claudia. I convinced the commissioner that there was never any traffic on 29th Street. This is a slightly daring move. I walked him into the middle of the street and I said, "You will not be hit by a car." And his whole entourage, all the officials followed him because he's the commissioner. They had no choice. And we just dared. And I was really hoping there would be no cars. Now, in the back of the photo, there's a guy beginning to make the turn and come up the street. We escaped unscathed, and with a commitment from the commissioner, at least, to advance the project. On December 1st, the LaGuardia nursing program was again ranked #1 in New York State. At this point, I'm not sure this passes for news. It happens all the time. Still, big congrats to Faith Armstrong, director of our nursing programs, and her amazing faculty. And tomorrow, how do we make a slide for tomorrow? Tomorrow, 39 small business owners will graduate from our Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Entrepreneurship Program, led by Assistant Dean Asanta Howard. This class, they haven't graduated yet, so we don't have a photo. This class is Asanta's 40th training cohort since she started the program. At this point, there are more than 13,000 10KSB alumni in the New York metro area, people who have taken this program. That's a lot of small businesses out there that owe much of their success to this unique collaboration between LaGuardia and Goldman Sachs, and of course to Asanta Howard, who has led it from day one, and knows each one of those 13,000 business owners personally. Yes, thank you. Here, applause for Asanta. Well, you'll probably be relieved to know we've come to December 7th. We've come to the end. I mean, there's a few more weeks left in the month of December, but I'll spare you. At this point, I want to remind you that we have a holiday reception in the atrium, and this is important. After that, at 5 o'clock, something very special, which we'll put in the highlight reel for next year. I highly recommend that you check out the reading by New York Times bestselling author Javier Zamora. This special event, supported by a grant from the National Endowment for Humanities and the Creative Writing Committee of the English Department, will take place in E111 at 5 o'clock. Zamora is going to read from his gripping memoir, Solito. How many of you read Solito? John's read Solito. You've got to get this book. In Solito, he tells the story of how he, as a 9-year-old boy, pretty much on his own, walked from El Salvador, where he was born, through Guatemala and Mexico, and eventually, again, walking to the U.S., where he crossed the border. Spoiler alert, he survived. He's here signing books. But he made it, and his parents were waiting for him. He's 9 years old. They were waiting for him in California. It's an incredible book. It's an incredible story. And I was talking to the chancellor about the fact that LaGuardia has Javier Zamora speaking this afternoon. The chancellor couldn't believe it, like that LaGuardia has Zamora. So if you have a chance to go up there, it's at 5 o'clock, E111, and learn more about his unbelievable journey. Thank you all very much. I'll see you inside for the festivities. Thanks for coming.